Hi everybody, this is Professor Coyne and I am recording this webinar for my writing students. This is a backdrop for some of the terminology that we're going to be using in the class, and just to sort of make sure that everybody's on, there's a level playing field, everybody understands, certain concepts in the class. I'll be using this webinar in my Ring 91s, 92s, English 101, English 102, it's kind of across the board. So I'm going to, and you can see in this webinar, I'm going to talk about paragraphs as well as essays. If you're in 92, 101, 102, you're not specifically writing paragraphs, but you're obviously writing paragraphs, but your courses aren't devoted to the paragraph in much the same way Ring 91 is. However, as I just mentioned, your essays will be made of paragraphs, so this is good information, refresher information for you as well if you're in 92, 101, or 102. So let's get started. This information will be found on your course site in a folder that I usually entitle something like, and this will be on the modules page in a folder in one of the modules. Usually I entitle that folder something like about outlining, paragraphing, and essay writing, or something along those lines. So look for something that looks like that. You want to make sure that you've listened thoroughly to this webinar and taken notes, that you printed out and read these handouts on your own to make sure that you get all of the information that you need before starting any of your writings in class. So as I said, let's get started. In this class, what is my audience? That's the first question on the paragraph and essay essentials writing handout. And I say there, pretend that you accidentally left behind your draft in the cafeteria. A college-educated person comes behind you and picks up the draft. He, she, without knowing the assignment or anything about you or this class, should be able to read and easily understand the draft without tripping over proofreading, editing, developmental, or organizational mistakes. So I say that because many students think that they are just writing for the instructor. Well, the instructor is standing in as best he or she can for a broader audience. And so we kind of have to, as we're reading your work, we have to keep shifting gears. And okay, I look at this paragraph and I think, I understand what's in that paragraph or that essay or whatever. But would, somebody who's not in this class, or somebody who hasn't spoken to the student and learned a little bit about the topic, would that person understand? So we have to stand in for people who need some filling in as well. So that's why I say just kind of picture writing for somebody who is college educated or getting college educated. So you know that person has a certain vocabulary level and is a pretty good reader, all right? So you're writing for that person, but you also have to keep in mind that that person doesn't know probably about our class, about the topic that's been assigned to you, about the requirements of the assignment, about the research that you've done. So think of that person and ask yourself, what does that person need to know, and how does he need to know it? You got to step outside of yourself a little bit to determine those things. What are the characteristics of good writing? That's the next item on the sheet. It says all good writing should be free of proofreading and editing errors. That's a given, right? We don't, we understand that should be the case. All good writing should comply with the assignment directions and be written for the appropriate audience. We just talked about that. In our class, all good writing should also comply with Modern Language Association format specifications. And again, Modern Language Association is abbreviated MLA. I mentioned Modern Language Association on the syllabus. Yes, on the syllabus under the format requirements. There are links to the Purdue OWL in the Useful Links folder on our modules page. Go there and look. There you will see that I have direct link to MLA information on Purdue OWL. And so if you aren't familiar with MLA and the requirements that they've set forth about formatting your paper, about how you document information that you get from another source, if you're not familiar with those things, hop over there and begin reading up, all right? Again, we're an accelerated class, and so I have to kind of count on you to do that extra reading, all right? So make sure that you do that. I also have a little webinar on my YouTube channel where I review MLA a bit. So, and also I've linked in the useful links folder on our modules page to the BCC website that also has information about MLA. Okay. All right. So the basic characteristics of good writing. Above, we already hear you're going to proofread and edit your work, and you're going to document correctly, and that you're going to follow the assignment specifications. So what else is there about good writing that you need to know about? Well, good writing is characterized by being unified, coherent, and concrete. Whether it's a paragraph, whether it's an essay, whether it's a research essay, whatever, okay? Whatever level you're at, these are the things that we're looking for. Is the writing unified? In other words, is all of the information in that writing in support of the essay or paragraph topic? Or do you stray off topic? And if you do that, obviously the writing is not unified, and that's a bad thing. We want all information to be in support of the topic. Don't get off the track. Is the writing coherent? Is the writing arranged in a reader-centered fashion? And I mentioned to you up here when we first started this webinar about audience that you need to step outside of yourself. You need to think about, yes, I understand that this information could be good for me to understand in this way, but what about other readers? Would other readers need to understand the information as it would be organized in another way? You really have to think about how you're reporting information. You want to make sure that you have made it palatable, easy enough for the reader to read without it being insultingly, coming across in an insulting fashion that it's, sort of like pablum. You've reduced the level of the reading so much that it's no longer college level. So you've got to strike that balance. You've got to think about how you're reporting things, and how do you know all of that? You don't until you share your writing with others. And when you looked at the competency sheet for this class, I hope you noticed that one of the behaviors was how you're going to be judged for how you take constructive criticism. Nobody's asking you to take abuse, but constructive criticism. So if a reader, your instructor, somebody else says, I didn't understand that paragraph, or I didn't understand that essay, ask more about it. What exactly didn't you understand? Could you give me some idea of how I could redo that, how I could make it easier for you to understand? And take that advice from those people and consider it carefully, okay? Because with college writing, you are no longer usually you are no longer writing for yourself, or at least just yourself, unless you're in a creative writing class. Usually you're writing to give the reader information. Even if it's information about an opinion you hold, you have to inform the reader and persuade the reader, okay? All right, and then the last characteristic that we're looking at here is the writing concrete? Does the writing include the correct quality and quantity of detail, meaning example, figures, whatever? Please remember this, and we're going to get to this in a second, I believe. This class is based upon, all good writing is based upon definition and example. Yes, we use comparison contrast. Yes, we use classification. Yes, we use some other techniques, but all good writing is based on definition and example. So what does she mean by that, you ask? Well, the minute you sit down to do an outline, which we'll be talking about shortly, or at least in another webinar, but shortly in this module, you have to come up with this thing called either a main idea statement if you're in Ring 91, or a thesis statement if you're writing an essay for 101 or 102. And the thesis statement is your opinion on a controversial point. But think about this. In order to state that opinion, you have to define your position, don't you? So as early as that point, as you're outlining, you're beginning to define. As you go through things, in your essay, the minute you mention something that the reader perhaps isn't familiar with, or the reader could possibly have a different definition of, you need to define, okay, what you mean, what your definition is, all right? Alrighty, so, and also you need to provide enough detail, not too much where you're repeating yourself, but choose some good detail, some good example to support yourself, and to get your reader's attention and get the information across to the reader. All right, so that's what concrete means. All right, For those in essay writing classes, and quite frankly, Ring 91ers, you're also in an essay writing class because at the end of the semester, you're writing a short essay. So listen up, okay? What is an essay? An essay is an opinion piece. It's an opinion piece, and few students think along those lines. Everything is kind of in the essay is based upon your thesis statement, which is that one sentence statement of opinion on a controversial point. The thesis statement must be a statement of opinion, not a statement of fact. So here's two examples here. Sentence 1, gun control is a controversial topic. Sentence 2, Maryland needs to have stricter rules concerning assault weapons. Which of those do you think is the statement of opinion on a controversial point? Which one of those do you think is just a statement of fact? I'll pause for a second, look at those two sentences again, and then we'll talk. So hopefully you said that sentence 2 is the thesis statement, the statement of opinion, and that sentence 1 is just a statement of fact. There's nothing controversial about sentence 1. Everybody thinks that gun control is a controversial topic. I mean, we all agree that we're arguing about gun control. What's the point? Well, okay, so that is not a thesis statement. A thesis statement must take a topic, a controversial topic, meaning something that can have 2 or more sides, and state an opinion. Don't sit on the fence. Don't hedge. A lot of students will say to me, "Well, can I do both?" No, you gotta pick a side. All right. So look at sentence 2. Maryland needs to have stricter rules concerning assault weapons. There is no doubt about what this person is talking about. And notice the use of definition here. Where? Maryland. Okay. What? Stricter rules about what? Any kind of weapon? No. Look at the definition there. Do you see how that helps us set up? It really helps you because it helps us set this picket fence around your essay or whatever it is you're writing that has to state an opinion. And it says to the reader, we're only going to be talking about this, okay? We're not going to be talking about other kinds of weapons. We're not going to be talking about Pennsylvania. Okay, do you see? You're just telling the reader, I'm promising you that we will talk about this in this essay. I did not say we're talking about everything else, okay? All right, so this is the base. For those of you who are mathematically inclined, this is the basic equation for a thesis statement. You must have your topic, you must have an opinion, and you have to state it in one sentence, which is the real challenge. So because you must have a thesis statement and an essay, it's not an essay without a thesis statement. An essay is an opinion piece, right? A thesis statement is an opinion. A thesis statement has to be in an essay. So an essay is an opinion piece, right? Okay. In our class, where will the thesis statement be placed? Our class arranges the introductory paragraph deductively. This is the symbol for deductive reasoning, the upside down triangle, and it goes from the broad, the general, to the specific. The specific, right? The particular. So we're going to arrange our introductory paragraph like that. So this means that therefore the thesis statement should be placed at the end of the introductory paragraph. And if you look at your essay assignments, okay, and we're talking, Ring 91ers, we're talking essay. We're not talking your paragraph, okay? That's a different subject, okay? But when you get to writing the essay, you must put your thesis statement at the bottom, the last sentence of the first paragraph, not just the bottom, the last sentence of the first paragraph, the introductory paragraph must be your thesis statement, all righty? Keep in mind that some instructors ask that the thesis statement be placed in a different position. You should comply with that instructor's directive when in his or her class. However, know this. Most college and university style handbooks require that the thesis statement be placed at the end of the essay's introduction. Understand this, I'm not bragging in what I'm just saying. I'm just going to make an observation. If you look at my bio on the course side on the syllabus link, and if you scan it, you can see I've been to a lot of different universities, okay? And I can tell you I have yet to be to one, yet to be enrolled in one, where the thesis statement is placed anywhere else but at the end of the introduction. If it's a long essay, sometimes the introduction is more than one paragraph. We're not writing that kind of essay. Or at the end of the introductory paragraph. It is at the end of the introduction. And for you, the introduction is a one paragraph setup. And so it would be the last sentence of the introductory paragraph, okay? Are there places out there that perhaps take the thesis statement and place it elsewhere? Yeah, maybe so. Did you probably learn to put your thesis statement as the first sentence in high school? I bet you did. I bet you did, and I'll tell you why. That is because, especially now, Most high schools are doing that comprehensive testing thing every so often. And the teachers, and I would do the same thing if I were a high school teacher, the teachers are teaching their students to place a thesis statement at the very beginning of the introductory paragraph, because they want to make sure that when the readers read the essay, that they see that thesis statement immediately and can check off that skill on their evaluation list. That's basically why it's being done. Want to make sure that the evaluators know that their students know about thesis statements. That's fun. I would do the same thing. But now you're in college. The bar is rising a bit, okay, in terms of challenge. Do this correctly now. College level essay writing. You must put your thesis statement as the last sentence of the first paragraph. Got it? Okay. What is a concluding paragraph? The concluding paragraph is the summary paragraph for the entire essay. It should restate the thesis statement either repetitively, meaning verbatim, word for word. That's what verbatim means. I think I've mentioned in all of my classes now that verb in Latin, that word. So when you see verb, think word, okay? Verbatim or redundantly. What does redundantly mean? Redundantly means if you're being redundant, you're saying the same thing over in new words. You're using different words. So repetitive, you're using the same words. You're being verbatim. You're using the words verbatim. And redundant means you're using the idea, but you're saying it in new words, okay? Anyway, that concluding paragraph has to summarize the essay, and it has to restate the thesis statement either repetitively, verbatim, say it again in one sentence, or redundantly. This paragraph should never include new information, and that happens pretty frequently in student essays, especially at the beginning of the semester. The student suddenly thinks of something to put in, and you can't put in new information. You're supposed to be closing up the essay. The concluding paragraph is the last paragraph of the essay. In our class, I usually specify, at least in that short essay that 91ers do at the end of the semester, and in 92 and in 101, I usually say that the concluding paragraph should be about 3 to 5 sentences. English 102, you probably want to stick to that. Your conclusions in your researched essays, English 102, could be longer than just one paragraph. So we'll talk individually during conferences 102 about what needs to go into your concluding sections for your report, your researched essay, okay? So generally in essay writing classes, it's 3 to 5 sentences. English 102, we're individualized in that class. I'll be talking to you in an individualized fashion during individual conferences, okay? How long are most essays? It depends on the subject of the essay. Always check the assignment directions that your instructor provides. Directions should give you some sense of essay length requirements. In our class, the essay will be 4 to 5 paragraphs long to include the introductory and concluding paragraphs. And that's generally true, even in 101, 4 to 5 paragraphs. In fact, students will say, well, that's kind of short. Well, there's a discipline to develop in writing an essay that meets a paragraph limit. Anybody can go on and on and on for pages and pages, 91ers, 92ers, English 101ers, and even English 102ers. English 102, you're not going to be doing 4 or 5 paragraph essays, so this does not apply to you. You're going to be writing longer papers. But just, even in English 102, you have to think about judicious use of information. The last thing any of you want to do, no matter which class I'm speaking to, is to bore the reader. You do not want to bore the reader. The second thing you don't want to do is confuse the reader, lose them in the weeds. You're out in the weeds, you're talking about something, you're wandering around. No. Okay? Remember, you need to be unified, coherent, and concrete. So I start training students in my classes in 91 and 92 and 101 to make sure that you are abiding by the paragraph rules. For a big reason, so that you really think about what you're putting into that essay and you set aside what doesn't need to be in there, so that the reader gets what you're saying right off the bat, hopefully. In 102, the lesson remains the same. I do work with students in 102 very individually. I have to, because you have individual research projects. but the lesson remains the same. Even though you're writing longer papers in 102, you still want to make sure that you're not putting anything in those papers that is extraneous, does not need to be there, can be set aside. The reader will say, why did I need to know that? Now I'm confused, okay? The idea here still applies to you, okay? How long are most paragraphs? It depends on the subject of the paragraph. However, most well-developed paragraphs average 5 sentences. Some can be as short as 3. Under no circumstances, capital letters, should you write a 1 or 2 sentence paragraph in our class, because that's not a paragraph. That's 1 or 2 sentences. A paragraph is an idea, right? It's a group of related sentences that express an idea. All right. What is a main idea, MI? The controlling, and 91ers, you especially want to listen to this because you're writing a lot of paragraphs in 101 and 91. What is a main idea statement? The controlling sentence for the entire paragraph. The main idea statement must include the topic of the paragraph as well as what the paragraph will say about the topic. So it's pretty much a little mini thesis statement, right? It follows the basic rule for a thesis statement. So the thing is, though, with the main idea statement in the paragraph, you have to be even more exact because it's just one idea, right? The thesis statement is the guiding idea, opinion for an entire essay. The main idea statement is the guiding idea for the opinion for, or the opinion for a paragraph, okay? So we're talking different levels there. What is the concluding sentence for a paragraph? The summary sentence for the entire paragraph is the concluding sentence. The concluding sentence can restate the main idea verbatim or redundantly. Then you should know that what those words mean now. This sentence should never include new information in much the same way a concluding paragraph or an essay should. In our class, where are the main idea and the concluding sentence placed? Our class arranges the paragraph to demonstrate deductive and inductive reasoning. Remember, deductive is general to the specific. It's the upside down triangle. Inductive reasoning is reasoning from the particular to the general, the specific to the general, and it's the right side up triangle. So the main idea should be placed as the first sentence of the paragraph and the concluding sentence as the last sentence of the paragraph. So ring 91ers, 92ers, 101ers, and even 102ers, listen to this. When you write a paragraph, you should still do main idea, first sentence, support, concluding sentence. I don't care what anybody says. I know that there are people, even in my department, who will say, well, you can put the main idea as the second sentence, third sentence, fourth sentence, last sentence. Can you do that? Sometimes, but I can tell you I've read those paragraphs and they aren't very strong. And they often lead to that kind of writing that's like up in the clouds and nobody's following it. Think of your reader. If your reader is pressed for time and needs to get your ideas quickly, what's the way to do it? Through visual and verbal cues in your writing. What are some ways of doing that? By letting the reader know that my paragraphs have main idea statement first, or arranging your paragraphs, a main idea statement first, the stuffing of the paragraph, the body of the paragraph in the middle, the support is there, and then a concluding sentence. Then the reader gets the idea by reading your writing that, oh, if I'm really pressed for time and I just want to get what you're saying, I know that I can read the first sentence and the last sentence. And that, in a lot of speed reading courses, that's what they tell you. If you have to cram for a test, which is not recommended, but if you have to, crack open that chapter in that textbook, and if it's well written, you should be able to read first sentence, last sentence, first sentence, last sentence, and get the basic idea of what's in those paragraphs. You see? So yeah, you want to do that and follow that pattern, and I'll be looking for that. All right. Now, in a future class, could you, once you get really, really strong with college level writing skills, if you want to go off and practice other ways of writing paragraphs, fine. But what I'm doing in these classes is giving you tactics that you can always use, and if you do them well, should always work for you. Okay? And that's my job, to make sure that you can not just pass this class. I give you the skills. The passing is up to you. But, I give you the skills that you need to be successful in this class, and hopefully also in future classes, okay, by following these little rules, these lessons. Okay, next one in our class. What voice should I use in my essay? It depends on the assignment. Always check the directions. I will tell you in 91, 92, and sometimes in 101, you can use first person voice. What does that mean? You're seeing it through your eyes in first person. First person pronouns are pronouns like I and me and we, right? Us. You're there, right? You're involved. The first person voices, you can use those kinds of pronouns when you write. You're seeing things through your eyes. So in 91 and 92 and 101, depending on the topic, you can do that. In English 102, don't you dare. No, no, no. You're using report writing class. That also happens in English 101, okay, especially at the end of the semester. And sometimes in 92 and 91, okay? What is report writing class? Well, as you just heard me say, you are not using the first person pronouns. Would not see in a 102 essay, a formal report, the I's and the me's and the us's, okay? Instead, you're using third person report voice, which instead of saying, I believe Maryland should have stricter gun control laws or stricter assault weapon laws, you say instead, Maryland should have stricter, okay? See what I'm saying? You take yourself out of it. You're in the report writing voice. It takes a little practice to get there. It takes a lot of editing to get there, but that's the training that you need in order to progress on in college. All of you, 91, 92, English 101, English 102, stay away from the second person you, your, any of the variations. You can use you and its variations in a direct quotation. If you're quoting somebody who uses you, that's understandable. But in your own writing, always, always, always try to stay away from you. Why? You is a loose cannon. Half the time, more than half the time, when a student uses you in his or her writing, we don't know who you is. Who are you talking to? Okay? So you is considered far too dangerous of a pronoun to use because it's it's a lot sometimes not specific, non-specific. This is a good place for me to also mention that in college writing, unless it's a direct quotation, stay away from contractions. Do not say wasn't when you mean was not. Do not say isn't when you mean is not. Stay away from slang. And I think that we, in our culture especially, use slang so much that it creeps into our writing and we don't even realize it's slang. Many people use the expression, I'll give you an example, a lot. I use it in speech, but in college writing, no. A lot means a piece of land. It's a lot of land, okay? It does not mean many or most, all right? So you've got to edit that out, replace it with more specific language. So if you mean, I study a lot, you're going to get that a lot out of that sentence, and instead you mean that I study often. I study daily, whatever. Okay, be specific. Okay, get away from the slang. All right. So I've talked about the main idea there. In our class, what voice should I use in my essays? I just mentioned that. What is all good writing based upon? Definition and example. I mentioned that earlier. We will use definition and example in the paragraphs and short essay we write for all of your classes. What is an outline? The map for the body of a writing. The outline, if you've never done one before, and I have students who haven't, I'm going to show you in a separate webinar how to do it, is the map for the body of a writing. Once approved, you will use your outline to guide your writing, of course, paragraphs and a short essay, as well as English 102, listen up. It also, an outline is also something that will guide your report, and English 102ers. Think about this. Once you do your outline, you can convert that into a table of contents. And that's how outlines are also useful in research writing classes like English 102. All right, so there you go. I'm going to post this handout in the module on the modules page of our course site. I hope you found this helpful. Listen, my directions for my essays are very specific. So some of these reminders will be back in, you will find them again in the assignment. Also for paragraphs in 91, very specific. Remember, is where your main idea statement goes, or remember, this is where your thesis statement goes. I also have some other things that I ask you to do, like, involve certain vocabulary words and, highlight certain kinds of sentences, so read your assignments carefully. I even suggest that you convert them into a checklist, and that before you submit them, you go through your checklist and make sure that you covered all your bases. Okay? All right. Hope this was helpful. I will talk to you soon. Bye.